Hey, it's Zach again. I had a few things that just popped in my mind that I thought I would share. It's been a lot more of the same, per usual, externally, but I can tell things are stirring internally around me. Like I can sense that self-awareness is starting to pop to the surface, and that's a scary thing for most people. Most people seek to avoid self-awareness because it's scary and it makes them feel guilt and shame and that sort of thing. And it's not a positive emotion for them, so they displace it or they just ignore it. So I can tell that internally things are seemingly dead like normal, like a bizarre hollow reality like it typically is. But I can tell internally, despite any kind of body language cues, I can tell people's minds are starting to stir more. And quite frankly, that's what needs to happen. But it won't really happen on the scale that it needs to. I think this is all changing people internally. Some are just so deeply conditioned and programmed that they can't even feel real emotions. They don't look at things from all angles. They are just guided to exist and go through their routine and motions and go through life that way. But people like me that see it differently, I'm sure we all agree that we're enduring a spiritual battle as well as like a test of our intestinal and mental fortitude. It's like survival of the fittest is going to begin for real, but right now it's the mental variety. It will become the everything variety for most people at a certain point down the road, I think. I think this is all leading to a de-escalation of society, a simplification of the world, and like I keep saying, a need to adapt to having less things and getting by with less, and finding happiness from smaller things and not just consumption, bad habits, that sort of thing. Like that's the big picture that I think a lot of people need to take, is that you can't be who you were and expect for it to work out, especially if you've done the wrong thing. Like this manipulative control and what I would deem like a supernatural hold over people's behavior, it's literally preventing logic and reason from occurring. Like it's refuting truth and making us living disingenuously. Like for the common person, it makes living disingenuously the norm, and that's so toxic and horrible. It's not how we're meant to behave as human beings, to be shady and disingenuous and to harm each other. This whole thing is encouraging that we all take aim at each other and and it's going to contribute to us all playing our small part in a silent genocide over the population. Like I said, over 10, 11 months ago, the first time I ever started recording these videos, I thought this is not only their way of controlling the population, but this is population control. Um, like I said before, this is quite literally what would I deem mark of the beast, as predicted in the Bible, and which is going to be the dawn of the tribulation period, which that's all going to occur in our lives, and many people just can't talk about that yet. There's that prohibitive block over us calling things for what they truly are. Like I've noticed that it's a subtle sort of censorship over our behavior. It doesn't seem to affect me as much as almost everybody else. Like I can tell most people around me have quite literally lost most of their autonomy. They are just existing, going through their motions. It's never really deviating from anything, but they're going to find themselves in situations that change their perspective, but force them to not be able to state their perspective or their belief. It's quite absurd. When I seem to notice things more heavily than everybody else around me, and I guess that's why I'm different than them. But I seem to think that what's going to happen, rather than like an out loud spiritual revolution, this is going to be more of like an internal thing, and we're all kind of just going through like our time period where we may not be able to resonate with other people out loud until we meet new people that are like us. This is our test of being around people that test our patience, that are not going to understand that we have to think creatively around, because they very well could not have our best interest at heart. And that's usually the case. People will chomp at the bit. People are going to create their own narrative because they can't sleep at night knowing what they've done and how certain things have been revealed that we all know. And we're all kind of just shuffling through nervously, hoping to not experience any ill effects from our behavior. That's what I seem to think people are feeling but not expressing. That's what I sense. And it blows my mind how easily people can uphold normal waking life while being different people behind closed doors. Like the whole world has gained this evil toxicity in our behavior that is just going to cause so many problems, and it leads people to believe that there's nothing to worry about. But just because the world's still pulling along, and like people are still going to work, you're going to the store, that sort of thing, doesn't mean it's normal waking life anymore. Those are things that are really enforced that uh, keep us in that state of cognitive dissonance where we're like, we know it's not normal, nothing feels or seems normal, but it's still existing somewhat normally. That's the mind fuck that I experience daily, that I'm sure many people like me do as well. But so many people were guided into to participating in this monitoring and this gang stalking activity that spread, that they've quite literally accepted mark of the beast. They have been guided into doing the work of the devil, what I would deem the work of the devil. It never begins that way, though. I'm sure this monitoring that occurs, it becomes a repressed hobby for many people, and it literally leads to people becoming bitter and miserable towards each other because they know too much about how each other think. Like, we're too privy to the exact details of other people, and it disillusions us, and it makes us lose hope and become bitter. And that bitterness that is processed by people who lack empathy, then it becomes hatred, and it's spewing venom, but in such a imperceptible way that's hard to prove, that it's just going to perpetuate itself. I'll say it every time, though: download SKUE to amplify the synthetic telepathy that we all experience, and the harassment to prove that it's happening. That's something that I think I was meant to stumble across organically to figure out and notch it all together. But download that app on Android. People have just become so accustomed to being gaslighted and lied to that many people feel the need to play along with other people, because it's just an uphill battle to even have an argument with a narcissist to begin with. So that's the type of life that we're all stuck into, and I venture to say that many people are prisoners in their own homes with the people around them. It's just become a weird, toxic cycle that needs to be broken a little bit. But I guess the world's going to have to break a lot more and show signs of actual distress before people can actually change on any kind of level out loud, and that's sad as fuck. But the big picture is to get out of your discomfort zone if you can. Break away, become clear and free and lucid, and figure out how to feel about other people, because you're going to need some time to reflect. You can't avoid that self-awareness and reflection and expect personal growth or any kind of positive change to occur in your life. And accept that many people are not going to like you for these revelations and spiritual breakthroughs that you have. It is quite literally the devil, basically, trying to discourage you from being the spiritual person or spiritual being that you are. So, don't ever think that you're doing the wrong thing if you follow your gut and you're a good person. Fuck everybody else at the end of the day. But I imagine that what's going to happen is many acts of God and things that can't be prevented through this monitoring and orchestration are going to occur and set off a chain reaction. And I think a lot of the people that are continuing to monitor other people and harm their lives and interfere and drive them to suicide, I think that you're going to have so many fires to put out left and right that you're not going to be able to fulfill your purpose and keep doing this level of harm. The level of information is going to start to override the level of influence and control, and we're going to see some real world things happen that can't not be pointed to what's occurred. So the plausible deniability, which I myself have found ways to poke holes in that people really need to start picking up on, those are going to be compounded and added upon, and we're going to have a breakthrough of epic proportion at some point in our lives. But I think that'll come about whenever the society is actually collapsing. I'm not sure when that'll be. Great care is taken through this orchestration to perpetuate the notion that nothing even bad is happening, and that would be crazy to question anything, to fuck with our heads, to distort our reality. So don't allow that to happen. Have your beliefs and don't let anybody sway them from you. That's the whole purpose. They don't want any of us to even have a belief. They want to believe what we believe for us. And that's why we have to make deliberate efforts to notice when the manipulation's occurring and to fight it and battle it. That's why it's spiritual warfare, ultimately. There's something else I was going to touch on. But yeah, it's like we are all enduring the most vacant, hollow, and bland reality that we can. And all the while, the most surreal existential experience of anybody's lifetime is, if you have eyes to see it, is happening in the background all the time. So just pick and choose what you do. The mind control that I've deemed, it's exhibited itself in the most unreasonable ways with people and their behavior, and we're forced to endure it. It's just part of the deal. But expect others to be different in person than you think they are going to be. Expect that people could be at their worst, but they may not be. Perhaps this consciousness shift will keep happening. So anyway, I'll let it go from there, but wish you guys well. Peace.